Automic Automation has included a REST API going back many releases. This has enabled third-party applications to extract design and operational data from the scheduler and import it in their own environment for external use. One apparent implementation is Broadcom's own dashboarding and reporting tool, Automation Analytics and Intelligence, which uses the REST API to extract scheduling data and job definitions to build its own reporting data. Until this point, the REST API was passive. You could extract, but not interact directly with the data. Version 24 remediates this. We're now able to issue CRUD commands, create, read, update, delete, through the usual methods, post, patch, get, and delete. We're not going to bother with a complete rundown of the API, and for good reason. It would take hours. But we'll show the available tools for users to interact with the API. We'll show the Swagger documentation, which users of other REST APIs will no doubt be acquainted with. The Swagger doc is accessible directly in the Automic documentation. We'll also show how to test. For this, there's a multitude of open source tools, as well as the command line interface. We like postman and the curl command, and so we'll use those. The scope of the version 24 enhancements is CRUD operations. Up until this point, we could consult and extract data passively with the API. We're now able to rely on various methods to create, duplicate, import, list, see, update, and delete data in Automic. That includes creating, updating, and deleting folders and objects, and interacting with operational data like executions. The URL hasn't changed. The default port is 8088, and the API is accessible via /AE/API/v1. We use standard methods, post to create, duplicate and imports, patch to update, get to list, and delete to delete. Automic objects have many data points. Some objects like workflows are compounds. More complex objects mean more expansive syntax. Each issued method, while not complicated, can be fairly extensive, and so we use a simple delete in our demo because it's easy. Users should rely on the Swagger doc to find methods and parameters. The documentation is comprehensive, easy to use, and provides all the necessary information like parameters and possible responses. The Swagger doc is accessible directly in the version 24 documentation. You simply do a search for REST API. Swagger is organized by Automic data item. You have objects, executions, forecasts, and so forth. For each, you have a method, say post or patch, and the syntax. A description is also provided. The object post method, for example, allows us to create and import objects. Swagger displays the syntax. In this case, we need the client number, the objects directory, and the object name. All other parameters will be listed as well. As we stated earlier, Automic objects are quite sophisticated, and some are compounds of other objects, and so the list of parameters should be quite long. Each section provides an example, and you can select different objects. You'll see the expected response, as well as the various HTTP status codes based on the request you issued. Let's look at the delete method because the syntax is concise. The delete method allows us to delete an object. The syntax is simple, client ID and object name. This is what we'll run. We can show a sample object using the URL via the API. We'll be prompted to log into the specific clients. With the delete method, we'll use an authorization header to pass the credential information. This displays an object and its characteristics directly via the API, the version, object name, description, variables, and so on. Let's head to Automic via AWI. Postman allows us to submit REST requests. You specify the URL and the authorization header using the basic method. The matching curl command syntax is provided as well. Here's the curl command equivalents. First, we would encode our Automic user and password pair in base 64. This outputs the credential combo code that's required with the basic authorization header. Then we would issue the curl commands. We're using the delete method with the API URL / the name of the objects. We include 2 headers, the content type, and the basic authorization mode, with the base64 code for the user password combo. Let's refresh AWI.